The most troubles of a human being, when people break their heart by when the heart of the heart breaks down, it signifies something far deeper than the typical heartbreak we often speak about. It isn't simply about the end of a relationship or the pain of unrequited love. It's the crumbling of the very center of a person's emotional being. Imagine the part of yourself that holds your purest intentions, your deepest dreams, your quiet hopes, the space inside you that you rarely show to the world. When that part breaks, the experience isn't loud or dramatic. It's quiet. It's heavy. It's a silence that sits in your chest like a stone. Emotional collapse is difficult to explain to someone who hasn't felt it. It isn't always tears or outbursts. Often it is numbness. It is the feeling that nothing matters anymore. Not in a hopeless, theatrical way, but in a genuine disconnection from everything that once sparked joy. You wake up and stare at the ceiling, unsure why you even bothered to sleep. The world continues moving, people laugh and talk and go about their lives. But you feel like a ghost among them, alive but not really living. This kind of breakdown isn't just sadness, it's the shattering of inner stability. You begin to question everything, the things you once believed in, the people you trusted, even your sense of who you are. Emotional collapse doesn't knock on the door politely. It floods in, uninvited, washing away the parts of yourself you thought were anchored. You become unfamiliar to yourself, and that disorientation is frightening. There's a sense that something inside has irreversibly changed, and it's not just that you feel broken, you feel unmade. People often assume that emotional distress has a clear cause, like a breakup, a loss, or betrayal. But when the center of your emotions is fractured, it may not be tied to one event. Sometimes it's the weight of too many disappointments, too many sacrifices made without acknowledgement, or too many days of pretending to be okay. Other times, it's one quiet moment that makes you realize how hollow everything has become. You might not even be able to explain it to others, and that adds another layer of pain. Feeling like you're screaming inside, but no sound is coming out. What makes this collapse so distressing is the inability to fix it quickly. You can't simply talk it out, cry it out, or distract yourself. The usual tools don't work. Even the things you used to love may not bring comfort. Music feels like noise. Food tastes bland. Conversations are exhausting. You become detached from your own life, as though watching someone else live it. The emotional center, once the place where love, compassion, and resilience lived, is now a hollow space, echoing with confusion and fatigue. Yet, even in this desolate state, there is something profoundly human about emotional collapse. It strips away the distractions and forces you to face the core of your being. It is terrifying, yes, but also honest. In those moments of darkness, you learn what truly matters. You might not know how to rebuild, but you begin to recognize what pieces are missing. You begin to understand that healing doesn't always come with answers. It begins with sitting in the silence and simply breathing through it. Emotional collapse is not the end. It is perhaps a painful reintroduction to your truest self. And though it might feel like the heart of your heart is gone forever, it is often in the most broken places that the light eventually returns. Not all at once, and not always in the way you expect. But slowly, gently, life starts whispering again. And one day, without realizing it, your heart begins to feel again, not like it once did, but maybe even stronger. Existential pain is not the kind of suffering that can be soothed with a comforting word or a warm embrace. It runs much deeper, touching the root of one's being, where identity, meaning, and purpose reside. It's the ache that comes not from a single event, but from the overwhelming realization that life at times feels unbearably empty. It's not just about feeling sad, it's about feeling as though the very structure of your existence has lost its weight, its direction, and its reason for being. There are moments in life when everything we've built, beliefs, relationships, routines, suddenly seems hollow. You might find yourself sitting in a room full of people you love and still feel utterly alone, or wake up in the morning and wonder, what is the point of all this? This kind of pain isn't sparked by external drama, but by an internal unraveling, where the questions that have no easy answers start to press down with suffocating weight. Who am I really? Why am I here? Does anything I do truly matter? When these questions become louder than everything else, it creates a unique kind of suffering that is hard to name, but impossible to ignore. What makes existential pain so disturbing is that it strips away the familiar. The beliefs that once grounded you begin to feel like illusions. Things you once lived for, success, love, even faith, may start to seem fragile or out of reach. You might question whether the life you're living is even yours, or if it's something you constructed out of expectation and habit. There is a sharp, aching awareness that time is moving, yet you remain stuck in a fog of disconnection and confusion. You can try to distract yourself, you can stay busy, pour yourself into work, scroll through your phone for hours, or surround yourself with noise, but none of it truly works. The quiet moments always return, and with them, the painful questions. This kind of suffering doesn't scream, it lingers. It waits in the silence, in the pauses between conversation, in the stillness of night. It asks nothing of you and everything from you, all at once. People often underestimate existential pain because it doesn't always come with visible signs. You can be functioning, going through the motions, smiling even, and still feel like something fundamental inside you is crumbling. This invisibility can make it harder to reach out for help. How do you explain a feeling that has no clear cause? How do you ask for support when you can't even define the shape of your sorrow? Yet buried in this darkness is also the seed of something important. Because to feel this kind of pain means you are deeply aware that life is more than survival, that your soul longs for meaning, connection, truth, that you are not content with just existing. You want to live fully, honestly, with purpose. And though it may seem like a curse, this awareness is the beginning of transformation. Pain on this level forces you to confront your truth. It asks you to strip away the things that no longer serve you and to begin slowly to rebuild from what is real. It may be a lonely road, but it is also an honest one. You begin to search for authenticity in a world full of distraction. You begin to listen more closely to your inner voice, however faint. And over time, that voice can lead you to something deeper than what you had before. Not a return to what once was, but a quiet awakening to what could be. Existential pain is brutal, but it is also a sign of life, of depth, of a heart that still wants to feel something real. And that, in itself, is a quiet kind of hope.
Losing a sense of purpose is like waking up one day to find the map of your life blank. The roads you used to follow, the destinations you worked toward, the reasons you got out of bed each morning, they're all gone. And what replaces them isn't just emptiness. It's a fog that dulls everything, a quiet ache that follows you through your days, whispering, "Why bother?" This loss is not loud or dramatic, but slow and disorienting, like drifting out to sea without realizing how far you've gone until the shore is out of sight. Purpose isn't always some grand calling or noble mission. Sometimes it's as simple as showing up for someone you love, creating something meaningful, or believing that your actions make a difference. When that belief slips away, life begins to lose its shape. You might still go through your daily motions, working, eating, talking, but nothing feels anchored. There's no pull toward the future, no excitement for what's next. Just a constant sense of wandering, of surviving instead of truly living. This feeling often arrives silently. Maybe something you dedicated your life to ends, or someone you lived for leaves. Maybe your goals shift, or you reach what you thought was the finish line only to realize it didn't bring the fulfillment you expected. The world keeps moving. People keep talking about passion and dreams, and you nod along, but inside there's only stillness. Not peace, but paralysis. You no longer know where you're going, or why you should even try. It's hard to admit when you've lost your purpose. Society often rewards certainty, drive, ambition. Saying you're lost feels like weakness, especially when others seem to have it all figured out. So you keep quiet. You keep pretending. But the weight of that pretending grows heavier every day. It becomes harder to fake enthusiasm, harder to keep smiling through the moments that once brought joy. And underneath it all is the growing fear that maybe you'll never find it again, that the fire you once had is gone for good. What makes this kind of loss so painful is that it touches every part of your identity. Without a sense of purpose, you begin to question your worth. If you're not contributing, if you're not moving forward, if you're not needed, what are you? The silence left behind feels endless. You search for something, anything, to bring meaning back. But everything feels shallow or out of reach. You might try to fill the void with distractions, achievements, relationships, but nothing quite fits the way it used to. And yet, hidden in this emptiness is the beginning of something new. Losing your old purpose, as devastating as it is, creates space for something different to grow. It may not happen quickly. In fact, it often begins in the smallest of ways. A quiet curiosity, a tiny spark, a moment of stillness that doesn't feel heavy but open. You start listening to yourself in a way you hadn't before, not to who you used to be, but to who you're becoming. Sometimes, purpose isn't found in one grand moment of clarity. Sometimes it's rebuilt slowly, from the fragments of what you loved, the lessons of what you lost, and the quiet pull of what still stirs your heart. You may not have all the answers, and that's okay. What matters is that you're still searching, still breathing, still willing to feel, even when it hurts. Losing your purpose is a kind of death, but it's also the soil in which rebirth begins. It means the old story has ended, but a new one is waiting to be written. And maybe, just maybe, this time it will be even more true to who you really are. An invisible struggle is one of the most exhausting battles a person can fight, because it's carried silently, often without acknowledgement or understanding from the world around. It lives beneath the surface, hidden behind smiles, laughter, and everyday conversations. No one sees the weight you carry, and that makes it even heavier. There's no cast, no wound, no visible scar. Just a constant internal storm that others mistake for calm. You learn to wear a mask so well that even you begin to forget what your real face looks like. This kind of struggle doesn't announce itself. It creeps in slowly. It can begin with simple fatigue, a lingering sadness, or a growing sense of disconnection, and before you realize it, everything feels hard. Waking up feels hard. Engaging with people feels hard. Even doing the things that once made you happy feels like wading through molasses. But because nothing dramatic has happened, because your world looks fine from the outside, you question your own feelings. You tell yourself to get over it, to push through. You don't want to burden anyone with something you can't even explain. The hardest part of an invisible struggle is the loneliness. You're surrounded by people, yet feel completely unseen. You listen to their problems, nod and offer advice, all while your own soul is quietly unraveling. It's a strange kind of isolation, to be among others but still feel completely alone. And when someone asks how you are, you say, "I'm okay," not because it's true, but because it's easier than trying to put your pain into words. There's fear in being misunderstood, or worse, dismissed. So you keep it to yourself. There's also guilt. Guilt for not being more grateful. Guilt for not being strong enough. Guilt for feeling like this when others might be facing visible hardship. You minimize your pain because it isn't dramatic or obvious. But emotional pain that hides behind your ribs can be just as devastating as any visible wound. It chips away at your energy, your confidence, your sense of self, until you begin to wonder if this invisible version of you is the only one left. You become skilled at hiding. You master the art of small talk, the casual laugh, the carefully chosen words that keep people from looking too closely. You perform daily life like an actor hitting their cues, while inside you feel like you're barely holding it together. And the longer the struggle continues, the more disconnected you become from yourself. You forget what peace feels like. You forget how to relax, how to be present, how to breathe without effort. But even in the depths of this quiet battle, there is resilience. It may not look like strength, but it is. Getting out of bed when everything feels pointless is strength. Holding on, even if by a thread, is strength. And though the world may not see it, you are surviving something that most wouldn't understand unless they lived it. The invisible struggle doesn't last forever. There comes a moment, sometimes small, sometimes profound, where light begins to break through the cracks. It could be a conversation, a song, a piece of writing, or even just a breath of fresh air that feels different than the one before. And that moment doesn't fix everything, but it reminds you that you are still here, still capable of feeling, still capable of healing. Just because a struggle is unseen doesn't mean it isn't real. Your pain is valid, even if no one else notices it. And sometimes the quietest battles reveal the deepest courage.
Irreparable damage doesn't always look like chaos. Sometimes it's just the quiet knowledge that something is permanently gone. Maybe it's trust. Maybe it's innocence. Maybe it's the version of you that believed, hoped, or loved with abandon. What's worse is that the world doesn't stop. Life moves forward. People still laugh and chase dreams. But you carry this invisible break inside you, and nothing feels the same. It's like watching a movie in black and white after living your whole life in color. Things still happen, but the richness is missing. The vibrancy has been dulled. People may not understand what you're going through, especially if the damage isn't something they can see. They might think you're better, that time has healed you, but not all wounds close. Some remain open beneath the surface, tender to the touch even years later. You learn how to live around the pain, how to function while still feeling broken. It becomes part of you, not because you choose it, but because you have no other option. The hardest part about irreparable damage is knowing that healing doesn't mean returning to who you once were. It means creating a new version of yourself that includes the scar. You start to realize that some things can't be fixed, they can only be carried. You stop looking for closure and start looking for ways to coexist with the weight of what you've lost. And though that feels unfair, it's also strangely freeing. You don't have to pretend to be whole anymore. You just have to be real. Sometimes you look back and mourn, not just for what happened, but for the person you were before. There's grief in that. There's anger or confusion and a kind of quiet resignation. But there can also be strength. Because to keep going after something inside you has shattered is an act of courage. To wake up and still find reasons to move, to connect, to try. That's resilience in its rawest form. Irreparable damage doesn't mean you're ruined. It means you've lived through something powerful enough to change you at your core. And while you may never be the same, there is still life to be lived, not despite the pain, but alongside it. Some beauty is born from what's been broken, not in a romantic, easy way, but in the strength it takes to carry your pieces and still keep walking. In the way you begin to find meaning in survival itself. There's something deeply human about vulnerability. Something we all share, whether we speak about it or not. No matter how strong, composed, or successful someone appears, beneath the surface is a fragile space. A place where fears, doubts, and longings live. Universal vulnerability is the understanding that no one is immune to pain, heartbreak, disappointment, or loss. It levels us, strips away the illusions of control, and reminds us that in the end we are all just trying to navigate life with hearts that bruise easily. We are taught, often from a young age, to hide our softness, to be brave, to be tough, to keep it together. Vulnerability is painted as weakness, something to be avoided or fixed. But the truth is, our vulnerability is not a flaw. It's a thread that connects us all. It's what allows us to feel deeply to love, to empathize, to grow. And yet, when our hearts break or our world falls apart, it feels like we're the only ones unraveling. That's the illusion, that everyone else has it together while we're quietly falling apart inside. The reality is everyone has a point where things hurt too much. Everyone has moments of self-doubt, moments when they question their worth, moments when they feel utterly alone. You might look at someone else's life and see only strength, confidence, and clarity, but that's just the surface. Behind closed doors, they might be nursing wounds you know nothing about. We all carry invisible stories, some of love and light, others of deep grief and loss. Vulnerability doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care how much money you have, how beautiful you are, how successful you seem. It finds everyone eventually. What's remarkable, though, is how vulnerability can become a source of connection instead of shame. When someone chooses to speak from that honest place, it opens a door. It creates space for others to be real too. There's something sacred about those conversations. The ones where masks fall away and hearts are shown without armor. In those moments, you realize how much we all long to be seen, not for what we present, but for who we really are, beneath the roles and expectations. To accept vulnerability as universal is to stop pretending we're supposed to be unbreakable. It's to stop punishing ourselves for feeling too much or for needing others. It's an invitation to be human without apology. Life is uncertain. We will all face moments that bring us to our knees. Loss, heartbreak, fear. They don't make us failures. They make us alive. And when we allow ourselves to feel without judgment, we also allow ourselves to heal. The beauty of universal vulnerability is that it can teach us compassion. When we remember that everyone is fighting battles we can't see, we become gentler with each other. We become less reactive and more understanding. We stop demanding perfection and start appreciating authenticity. Vulnerability becomes a quiet kind of strength, the kind that doesn't need to be loud or performative, just honest. Living with this awareness changes the way we move through the world. We start to value depth over image, truth over polish. We seek connection, not just interaction. And we give ourselves permission to be tender, to rest, to reach out when we need support. Because we know deep down that no one is above the ache of being human. We all carry something. And when we stop pretending otherwise, we begin to heal. Not just ourselves, but each other. In the end, vulnerability is not our downfall. It's our bridge. It's the soft truth that reminds us we're not alone.